I hit live before I even started doing all that. Wow. Alright, here we go. Oh, I need to do that there. What is up? We're about to start this. Think I got everything working. We'll see. Let's go ahead and kick this off. Thank you to all my Patreon supporters. You can support me on Patreon. There is a link in the description below. And to all my tankers out there, go forth and conquer.
Tank Radio!
Congratulations, Frank.
Talking and I'm muted. Wow. Whoops. I did not unmute myself. I think the YouTube world is appreciated of that. I got my guys over here in the back room laughing at me because they heard it. They heard all of it. But welcome to Tank Radio again. Woo! I'm Frank KG5HJ, and welcome to my stream. I am just gonna roll through this real fast because I already said it once. Help me by donating to the stream over here by buying me a beer, and every dollar helps me and helps me do all the YouTube awesome that I bring to y'all. I am going to thank a couple of y'all late donors from the New Year stream that didn't get it in on time for the live stream. I have John, thank you much for the donation. Then also, excuse me, KY4WTS. Thank you for the donations to the New Year stream. That was a fun stream. We played some games. But today I have a special guest, Don. Another Don for the Don Army is going to come on and talk about grounding. And of course, I have Shane. Shane's joining us co-hosting. And let me hide self, and that's perfect. What is up? How are y'all doing tonight? Hey, it's all good. Come on in.
Each other all the time, Don. It's okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I
One
saw
of
that
one
on
of
the-
us will shut up.
I saw that on the Clubhouse. You guys usually do talk over each other.
What is...
I'm doing well, Frank. Good to see you, man. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it has, man. We've been busy. Both of us have been busy. The Clubhouse has been busy. I know you've been busy at work too, but thank you for finally finding time to join us here. I really do appreciate it. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about grounding, how to best ground your shack, and kind of the grounding principles. So Don, man, I am just going to go ahead and give you the floor. What can you tell us about grounding?
Well, actually, grounding is pretty important in my job. Those that have heard me before, my job is actually as a RF technician for one of the major cell phone companies, and we ground everything, and I do mean everything. And one thing I want to talk about is bonding and grounding. You'll hear those usually together, but they are two separate things. For example, bonding is electrically connecting two or more pieces of hardware to maintain a common electrical potential. That would be like all your gear. You want to, typically what we do is we'll hook them up to like one of these brass, I don't know if you can see that very well.
Yeah, your
One of these
background's cutting it
copper,
out.
yeah, one of these copper ground bars, and that gives everything the same electrical, uh, the common electrical potential. So everything runs to a copper ground bar, and then that runs to ground. And grounding, of course, is a tie between the electrical conductor or metallic equipment component and the earth. And that's something a lot of us, I know I've heard some people say they don't believe in grounding. They don't have anything in their shack grounded. And that's one thing you want to do is run everything to a common point. So that's bonding. You want to bond everything together, and then that all goes to ground. One thing that the National Electric Code says is that all ground connections should be torqued to about 83 inch-pounds. Don't make the mistake and use a foot-pound torque wrench. I've done that before.
That might break something.
Yes, it will. So inch-pounds. And this should be checked annually to ensure that the torque is correct, because as it heats up and cools down, that metal will expand and contract, and it will actually loosen your nuts and bolts.
Ooh, that's interesting. I
So
didn't think about that.
yeah, so you want to check them at least annually. I am doing a series of maintenance videos, and that's something we also don't talk about in our community is maintenance on your gear. Something you want to do at least semi-annually. You POTA and soda guys, well, I say it in my videos that are going to be upcoming. You POTA and soda guys, you want to do it more often, because you're sticking stuff up in trees and pulling it down and wear and tear. So you might want to do that a little more often.
So you're saying that, so say that every time we change the batteries in our smoke detectors, we should probably check the fittings on the ground to make sure they have it back down.
Yes, make sure you do that. That's a good example. So types of grounding, there's several. You have your ground rods that you set outside, and I have that here somewhere. So a ground ring with two 8-foot ground rods should be placed a minimum, and the ground rod should be at a minimum 10 feet apart, 15 preferably, and 12 to 18 inches below grade. So if you have an external shack like Jason, you want to, wherever your step down is, you want to go 12 to 18 inches below that. That's where your step is considered your grade. So you want to go 10 to 12 inches below that, and then you want to be, I'm sorry, I said 10 to 8 to 10 feet apart. You want to connect them with number 2 AWG bare copper conductors with, they say exothermic, we call them CAD welding. I think in my video I showed what CAD welding looks like, and I put a link to buy that stuff. It's basically mechanical versus chemical. Most mechanical grounds are going to have these little things right here. I don't know if you can see that very well, but you're going to have these with just the hole. You have 1 hole and 2 hole, 2 hole, and we use these a lot at work. And there goes my. Well, that one's not that important. You want to bond with number 6 AWG copper wire to 1 rod and fasten the ground bar about 3 feet above wherever your ground rod is. So you want to go 3 feet above that. And we use 14 gauge. This is 14 gauge right here. They say use 6. This is 14. This typically, the 14 typically goes to your equipment. 6 usually is going to go to your ground rod. Where cost-effective, inspection ports are highly recommended on each CAD weld placed. However, they may be omitted if the ground ring is under concrete asphalt, and that's if you run a ground ring. Usually ground rings you want to run about 6 to 8 inches underground. So you'll run that number 2, we actually call it tin coated copper. You'll run that in a circle outside and down about 6 to 8 inches around your shack. Your house is a little different because, you're not going to trench around your whole house. Too many things you got to worry about: buried copper, buried power, buried gas lines. So you got to, those just ground rods. And then between the ground rods, you'll want to run the tin coated copper between the two of them. I think I heard somebody that they'd stuck a ground rod in and grounded to that, their shack to that. And then they were getting some RFI still until they ran their shack was on one side of the house. The ground rod for their meter was on the other, and they were getting all kinds of issues. So they ran a ground wire between the two of them, and that eliminated that issue. Yeah, I wish I could have shared these. There are 3 basic grounding schemes utilized. The most common is the multi-ground neutral. In addition to that, there are the delta and uniground Y grounding schemes. These grounding schemes behave or respond differently to power surges and are each designed to their own individual requirements. It is specified by the National Electric Safety Code and Telcordia that when delta and unigrounded Y grounding applications are being used by a power utility or by our shacks, that we do not attach to the power utility ground. So the utility ground by your meter, you don't want to use that as one of your grounds. You want to go to a different ground. Per that National Electric Safety Code, attaching to the power utility existing is, no, that one doesn't make sense. I don't know why I grabbed that one. They're very specific that permission from the power utility must be obtained prior to making any connections. If you're going to connect to their existing, which
Is that like connecting to the house ground they have outside where the power's coming in?
Yeah, if you're going to ground to that, you really need their permission because you don't want to overload their system. Huh?
I said, or don't get caught.
Yeah, or don't get caught. So there's another thing you can do for your shack, like even in your house. You can run a number 2 green copper stranded wire around the ceiling of your shack. And then as you come in from outside, you can bond to that. And those you actually want to use. I don't have those type of connectors because we don't really do that, but they have C clamps that you'll put the 2 wires together and you'll C clamp it together. And that's a nice tight, and those C clamp, brain went blank. You know how that happens.
Mm-hmm.
But
it always happens when you do it live.
The crimpers, the C-clamp crimpers, those things start at $180 and go up. And they are huge. The reason they suggest going around the ceiling, doors. If you try going around the base, you're going to have to go under the door, and the door can slide and catch it and tear it up. So you want to go above the door where the door won't catch it.
Interesting.
That's the only reason. And one thing I wanted to show, I don't know if I can get a good view of it here. This is an improperly made connector right here.
Hold it in front of you.
Hold it in front of me?
Yeah, there you go.
Right here?
Yeah.
So this right here, because you can see this copper right here, that is not made correctly. This one's a little better, but it's still not right. You shouldn't be able to see any of the copper outside of this
the jacket,
this connector. Now, I didn't make these. I may have tactically acquired it from somewhere. Yes, liberated, tactically acquired.
So you're saying the jacket should always be inside the lug?
Yes, or the lug should be right up against it. And you really also want to use clear heat shrink inside, so that you can see through the heat shrink and make sure that's a good connection. Outside, you want to use the black heat shrink because that is actually UV protected. Another thing you want to use on these, and I didn't have any, is the was saying the word earlier. We call it no aux. So it's the what is the proper word?
Was that the self amalgamating?
No.
Tape stuff?
It's actually a grease that you actually want to put on the copper wire before you put it in the lug, and you also want to put it on the lug before you connect it to the ground bar, and that way it won't oxidize
Oh,
over time. You also want to do that outside. So when you strip the wire to connect it to your ground bar, you want to put the no aux on the ground wire before you hook it to the ground rod. That way, again, it doesn't oxidize, because can't even speak tonight. Oxidization
mm-hmm.
can cause, obviously, problems with your electrical. It won't have a
would
good.
make it corrode then.
Yes, it would make
Get
it corrode.
corrosion in there.
So
Mhm.
Plasma from the chat says is antioxidant grease or dielectrics?
Dielectric.
Dielectric, that's the one. See, I was
Yeah.
saying that all afternoon. Dielectric, and I'm like,
it happens to the best of us.
yep. So that is pretty much all I had.
Awesome. So the takeaways I kind of noted when you were talking here is that the most particulars I'm going to be you want to ground at the base of your antenna is one thing you want to do. Have a grounding rod at the base of the antenna. And then
Yes.
if you're running a long wire, if the antenna is like coming to your house, but it's like 10, 20 feet away from the house, how often do you want to ground on that wire until you get to the house, or?
So typically what we do is we'll ground where it comes off the tower. We'll run a ground wire there, and then we'll ground it before it comes into the house or into the building. And then usually, we don't ground inside. We don't ground the wires inside because everything else is pretty much grounded, and there's no need at that point inside. No, somebody bought you a beer.
Yes. Thank you.
I've got 5 questions for you, Frank, if y'all want to do a little short Q&A before we have to wrap up.
Yeah, let's go ahead and let's answer some questions before I bring up my particular grounding issue scenario.
Yeah, so Lionel asked, he said, how do you ground when you're on the top floor of your apartment building? And I am in the same situation there. And you can tell me if I'm wrong, but and hopefully I'm not. I'm probably about to embarrass myself. But what I did is I've got my 7300 sitting on my desk. I have my power supply sitting next to it. Now the power supply is plugged into a grounded plug in the wall, and so the case, I'm assuming the case on the power supply is grounded. So if I run my ground wire from the back of the radio to the case of the power supply, that should help ground the radio, correct?
It should. And I think that was actually one of the things Frank has, because I think we had just talked back in Belton that he's on the second floor of his house, but he's on a house, so that's a completely different issue.
Right. The other option I came up with was to scratch the paint off the railing that goes around my patio and do a ground connection there, because that's going to be connected to the structure of the building, the metal structure of the building.
Yes, and that should be grounded. That would be a bonded ground, because everything's going to ground. I'd emailed to Josh once, because I'd heard someone, I don't remember who it was, said that they run to the screw on their outlet, and I'm like, no, that's a bad idea. Another way for the second floor of an apartment building, I think I talked to my son about this. My son is a journeyman electrician, and Lionel, it should. He had recommended, and it wasn't a very strong recommendation, just so you know, if you feel brave enough, you could, outlets actually do have a ground on them. You could run to the ground of the outlet.
Oh, that's the copper wire that has no shielding on it, right? It's just the bare copper wire that's usually inside the wall.
Yes,
Yeah.
because that is actually a ground. You could, like I said, he didn't strongly recommend it, but he did say you
It
could.
should
Well,
work.
no. Well, he said it would. The problem is if there's a surge, you could still fry everything,
Mhm.
or if your equipment surges, it could fry your whole apartment. And but he did say you could do it. He just didn't really recommend it. His recommendation was to actually run a ground wire from outside up to the second floor, which isn't really a good idea, but
So let me bring up what my house kind of looks like, and I have a
okay.
nifty diffy. It's been a while since we've seen it. Paint. Ha ha! We got a paint going
Wow,
on.
paint.
I painted my house here. What we got here, and it's probably hard for y'all to see it, but I live on the second story, and I
Uh-huh.
have a chimney. That's what this block is here, and I'm going to mount my
Okay.
UHF VHF antenna up to it. So I was
Okay.
going to have the wire coming from the antenna into a project box with a copper a mounting plate there with
Mhm.
lightning arresters for it. And
Okay.
then I was going to take that and then continue it all the way down, a ground wire all the way down. I think you said about 14 gauge, or all the way down to the ground of to the base of the chimney, where I'm going to
Yes.
ground it. Now, the
Yeah.
odd part about my house, unfortunately, this red over here is the house ground where the utilities are coming in. So I'm gonna
Okay.
have to run, and I think from what I gathered, you said is I'm gonna run a wire around the outside of the house all the way up to the ground of the house, so I can
Or
have the
what you
two ground planes at the same potential.
or what you could do is off your chimney,
Mm-hmm.
go 8 to 10 feet in either direction,
Mm-hmm.
drive in another ground bar, and then connect them on the same side of the house.
Connect. So say that
S-
again. So run another
So
wire straight out.
so where your chimney's at, if you're going to
Yep.
ground down to the base of your chimney,
Mm-hmm.
go 8 to 10 feet in either direction from that ground bar,
Mm-hmm.
run another ground bar in, and then run a wire between the two of those.
So you wouldn't have to go around the house.
Yeah,
You
so you
just
wouldn't
go
have to go
eight to
all the way
10
around
feet
the
from the
house.
chimney.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you just have to go 8 to 10 feet from the chimney, drive another one in, and that would give you the same potential.
Oh, that might be a little cheaper. Because I was thinking
Yeah,
about running around the house and then doing another, I'm going to say 13 feet, running a ground wire, probably a grounding rod, I'm sorry, probably about three of them between the chimney and the house ground to bond them together. So each
right.
of them
But
will
if
be on the
if you,
same one.
right, but if you just did 8 to 10 feet apart from where your initial ground is going to be at,
Mm-hmm.
so if you just go around the corner
Mm-hmm.
and make that about 8 to 10 feet apart, and just run that, you'd be achieving the same thing without running all the way around the house.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay, well that's going to be a little cheaper. I like that. And then on this fence line, I hear the line to the left of it is my fence
Uh-huh.
line, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to have I'm sorry, the HF antenna there,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to have to, of course, ground the base of the antenna, have a ground
Right.
rod all the way down, and then
Mm-hmm.
have the ground also on the antenna wire matching up to another box with lightning arresters and everything before it comes into the house. And then
Right.
that box is going to be to the same ground I have for the UHF VHF because we want them all the same system on the
Right.
copper plate. So I'm going to have two boxes of lightning arresters in my house, one at the second story and one at the first story for the HF antennas I'm going to hook up. And they're
Okay.
going to be connected together. And that's all coming up on my channel once I start, having funds for this.
Yeah.
Oh, but I'm looking forward to doing this project. And
Yeah.
when I start doing this, you might come up and help me. I'm going to invite
Yeah.
a bunch of people to come out and help me out with this.
Yeah.
I have one more question if we have
Shoot.
time, Frank.
Yeah.
Yeah, 45 Auto asked, how would I ground a radio in a class A RV without cutting and drilling? So I guess mobile radio in an RV, how would be the best way to ground that? I'm assuming it would be probably the same way that you would ground to like your vehicle, where you put bonding straps across and make sure the entire thing's grounded, and then you can ground to the frame.
Yes. That's the way you do it, RV.
Oh,
That way you wouldn't have to do any extra drilling or
Yeah, you just have to link everything together. And then Todd asked, KY4TG asked, if you don't have to ground when you operate portable, why do you have to use a ground when you're in your shack?
That's a
Because
complicated answer.
it, well, it can be. The reason is because your vehicle portable is DC, your house is AC, so you have a higher chance of shorting your equipment with AC. If your meter or if your transformer pops, you're going to have feedback through your line, and if you don't have your stuff grounded in your shack, you'll short your stuff out. In your
The magic
car,
smoke
you're
comes
running.
out.
Yeah, magic smoke comes out. I would say I personally believe, even if you're portable, if you want, you can ground even when you're portable.
Mhm.
Because I believe in grounding everything. So
Well, I do run a ground wire for when I run the infed half wave on the
Mhm.
ground side of it at the end of the transformer. I do run a ground wire for that, and I just use a metal tent stake to stake that ground wire into the actual earth itself to create a ground
Right.
for that antenna.
Yeah.
That's that could we've done it several times at field day, running a quick little grounding rod, only a couple feet on there, but it's just enough to get rid of the static electricity. We got about
Right.
3 minutes left, so Don, I'm going to go ahead and give you the floor real fast. Tell us what are you up to and what's going on your channel.
Okay. Well, I'm in the middle of editing my first maintenance video. It's on I'll give y'all a quick sneak peek. It's all about your cables. This was left in my hot Texas summer garage for about
Whew.
8 to 10 years.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be talking about doing maintenance on all your cables to include your handsets, and then I'm going to be doing on all of your masts, whether it be metal, carbon fiber, or um, um, man, my brain is just not working. And I'm also going to be doing it on the antennas,
Mm-hmm.
fiberglass,
Mm.
fiberglass, and
Yeah.
I'm also going to be doing on your antennas. The key takeaway from all of these, and I'll go ahead and give this out for free. Your cables, you can use your bare hands. I actually recommend using bare hands because you can feel nicks, cracks, dry rot, and whatnot. Everything else, wear gloves, because that stuff, if your carbon fiber mast or if your um, fiberglass mast has a crack in it, you do not want that getting in your bare
Mm-hmm.
skin. It hurts.
Yeah, I agree.
So
Thank
And
you.
it's a booger to find where it's at to dig it out.
Yep.
yeah, yeah, it is.
I'm not speaking
Um,
from experience or anything.
So.
and tomorrow morning, I should be having a video releasing about 9 o'clock, maybe,
Oh.
on making a passive repeater for cell phone coverage. And it does
Oh,
not
nice.
matter your carrier. It will help bring all of it. I sent Jason a small video and then I reshot it. So that should be releasing tomorrow morning about 9 o'clock. Keep an eye out for it.
Make sure you drop a link to your channel in the
Mhm.
chat there.
It's
Okay.
already in the description, so it's in the
even
video
better.
description. Yeah, awesome. Shane, really fast, what's going up on your channel or the clubhouse or anything else you want to shout out?
Well, as always, come see us every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Central for the clubhouse. We like to have fun there. As far as my channel, I'm waiting on the weather and my congestion to go away where I can go out and do some more POTA. That's next. I've got to do a 5-park radar activation that I'm trying to get sorted out. It's about
Ooh.
6 hours worth of driving, so that ought to be fun. Other than that, man, waiting for warmer weather. I didn't think I'd ever say that here in Texas, but winter has caught up with us.
Yep,
So
yep.
Yep.
I got a radio review and then winter field day, and then we've got winter support your parks. We have all kinds of fun stuff coming up. So I look forward to putting a little content out there for everybody.
Awesome. And got me on big screen now. I'm Tank Radio, of course. Coming up on the next video is going to be my part of the winter activation marathon I did. That's going to be fun on next Mondays on the release. And go ahead and follow us or follow me onto Jason's stream. He should be starting here soon on Ham Radio 2.0. And we're going to be playing with some Arden nodes. And we're going to try to get some old ones up and running again. To all my tankers out there, go forth and conquer. Thank you to all my Patreon supporters. You can support me on Patreon. There is a link in the description below. And to all my tankers out there, go forth and conquer.